Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara's owner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast. Is it on me?
It's on you.
Oh, it didn't show me. That's all right. I'll edit. Hey, it's on me. Hey, okay. Hey guys, it's John Davis, and I am here with my lovely co-host Tamara Zoner. How are you today, Tamara?
I'm well, John. Tired.
and tired. It's one of those days, isn't it?
It is. You know, the weather in Michigan has been very, very fallish and gloomy, and just gray skies and drizzle and mist and rain, and then, as I was mentioning to you before we started recording, I love what I do so much that I forgot to take some time off these past 2 weeks. So really, I've gone 3 weeks straight without an actual day of rest. And
right.
So, between kids and work and all. And so, yeah, I'm feeling tired, and I'm really, really ready for tomorrow, which will be my day of rest until I pick up my kids.
Well, see, I think that's wonderful, because spirituality is it charges you up when you're doing that work, because it's such a loving, when you're in the careers that you and I are in right now. You're constantly, I'm having the thing where you get so enthusiastic about the work that you're doing that you just keep going, right? I've been putting out 3 and 4 videos a day. Yeah, because I get inspiration, I make a video, I put it up, right? Sure. And now what I've started doing is I've started knocking it down to 2 and then putting them in queue for later days. So which is great. But even on those days, sometimes I'll be like, "Ooh, I have one more that I want out today, so I'll go do it right now." And so you get the drive, but eventually you do get worn down, right?
Right. And so we have to schedule in time, rest time, downtime. I realized a couple of weeks ago when I did the same thing. So I guess that was last month. I did the same exact thing because I'm having so much fun in my business. And I realized that I hadn't scheduled a vacation for myself for the whole year.
Right.
In the last week of the year off, all the holidays and my birthday fall in between Christmas and New Year's Eve. So that week I'm taking off.
Right.
And here and there a Friday, but we really have to pay attention. Some people overwork themselves in jobs they hate. We're lucky, I feel, to be overworking ourselves on accident in jobs that we love and in passions that we love.
Right. But we have to remember that in this experience that we're in, everything we're seeing is pure energy anyway. And if we get so charged in one direction, our batteries will wear down over time. I used to say when I spoke in the corporate world that you had to have what I called the 8-8-8 practice: 8 hours of work, 8 hours of play, 8 hours of sleep. And it creates a balance, and it gives you, and here's the other thing is a lot of people like you and I who get so into what we're doing, we have our checklist of all the things we have to do. And I used to tell corporate people all the time, write 8 hours of sleep on your checklist.
Yes.
And then check it off as something that a task well done, because it's that rest, that recuperation is huge part of any spiritual practice at all. Because if you're not at your game, if you're not clear in your intention because you're so worn down, I mean, you're going to miss some experiences. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And sleep is the one thing that I try never to miss out on. Sometimes life happens and forces you to get less sleep than you planned on, but that's rare for me. So I'm usually in bed by 10 and waking up around 6:30 when the kids are home, and a little later if they're not. And that is so vital to me, because when I first really stepped into my own journey and started living for myself, one of the things that I noticed was what a different person I am based on the amount of sleep that I get. So I definitely am not great on less than 7 hours of sleep. And I quite naturally will sleep for 9 hours. So that's what my body really needs.
I'm a 7-hour guy. You give me 7 hours and I am good to go.
Mhm.
But it's so fascinating to me is both you and I, we are so passionate about what we do, right? And
Mhm.
for me, for the past decade, I've been in the corporate world,
Mhm.
and I was not as passionate about that work.
Mhm.
I was doing work and I was doing things that I felt were good for my spiritual nature and getting messages out, but I didn't feel like I could be clear about it, so I felt hindered by it. And now that I'm doing this new work now, my God, I'm so charged up, and I'm like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
great, right? And
It
that
really
is,
is fuel, right? It
oh,
really is when
absolutely.
you're doing something that really feels on purpose. It is fuel. And you know, that's when we have to write it in, take 2 hours of downtime or take a nap. Or, the other night I took on a new client. She can only meet in the evenings. Our time zone is different, and she's a nurse, so she works a long shift.
Like
So I
12
said
hours.
yes, and I said yes to 6 months of Tuesday evenings.
Mm,
And then what I realized is if my kids had been here this week, I probably would have gotten off that call, written up my notes, and been done and gone and
mm,
played Rummy Cube or something.
right.
But because they weren't, I worked until 11 o'clock and was like, oh, dang, I got to go to sleep. But I was so in it and so loving it. And so, I can do more. And she inspired me. She inspired different posts. And so we just keep going and going and going. And none of us can go forever, no matter how much we love our work. We
Right.
have to rest and restore.
Right. And sleep is an interesting thing, because when you go into meditation, you go into the stages of sleep as you go into meditation.
Mhm.
So just going into sleep is a meditation, right?
Right.
Coming out of sleep is the same meditation, right? And it's the moment when you're in solid sleep and you're doing, deep REM sleep, and you're really down in there. That is where you're going to get a lot of your inspiration, a lot of your your quote unquote downloads, they say, right?
Yeah.
That's where, because you're going to get that restorative rest that's going to take the clutter out of your mind.
Hmm.
And so you really need to start thinking of sleep and rest and relaxation as a prolonged meditation, really.
Sure. I love that sleep is a spiritual practice. And,
Right.
in Ayurvedic traditions and Chinese medicine, they say that between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., whatever your time zone is, are the healing hours. And
Mm,
that's when you're going to get the deepest, most restorative quality of sleep. And I've been researching this lately so I could, because I'm working with the International Academy kids, and like they have to do their research and cite it and back it up. Right. So I make sure I have mine too.
mm,
And so there's an American researcher who found that same thing in general. Anywhere between whenever it gets dark and about midnight is when our
mm,
bodies want to sleep, because we work with circadian rhythms, and our bodies want to rest when nature is resting. And we need that earlier night sleep for the non-REM sleep, because
right.
that's when we are deeper sleeping. And then toward the morning hours, we are dreaming more. So REM sleep
Mm,
is more, so it's a less restful sleep. So
right.
anybody who's ever had a really dreamy night, right? Like, oh man, I was dreaming all night. You might not feel as rest. I know for sure as rested, that I don't. But when you get those earlier hours of deep, deep sleep, and then usually I wake up to, use the loo. And then fall right back asleep, but then I'm dreaming. That's
Right.
when you get that really deep quality sleep. And in the happiness research, they say that uh, people's quality of sleep the night before makes more of a difference on their happiness levels than their relationship status or their income. It's
Mm,
sleep. And I know for
right.
sure that is me.
But when they asked the Dalai Lama what is the best method of meditation, his actual response was, the best meditation is sleep.
Really.
Yeah, that was his actual response. And that's fascinating. This is the guy who's meditated his entire life, and he's like, best meditation is sleep. But
Mhm.
his whole philosophy is simplicity, which I love, because that's my whole philosophy too. I don't like when things get convoluted. But what I find, with the whole rest itself being a part of spirituality. I saw a study just recently. They're talking about um, people who are having near-death experiences, And a lot of them will be outside of their body, and they'll see light coming from their body at the time of death.
Oh.
And in the past, I'm going to say within the past 5 years, there's they have literally scientifically caught light leaving the body at the time of death on camera.
Wow.
So they can literally see this light leaving. So what is the light? The light is the energy, right? The light is the power, the source. And so you literally are a walking battery. And if you're not charging that battery up, then your machines will never run as well. Your practices will never run as well. I find that when I'm fully rested, and specifically rested and meditated, because I do both, right? My things just happen easier in my world. I mean, just smoother. Even things that you would think would be, hugely troublesome, just get easily resolved.
Yes, because you're fully you're closer to 100%, and life feels easier when we're rested and feeling whole. And
if you think about the outer experience as a reflection of self, if you're tired and sludging through life, life is going to show you reasons to be those things.
Well, yeah. So if you're asking, why am I so tired? You're going to get answers.
or just saying, I am, so God's name, tired, right? You're asking for it.
Yes.
Asking for it, people.
You're affirming it, right? You're affirming it. I am tired. Whereas you could instead just say, I am going to rest for a few minutes, even if it's just for 15. I am restful. I am peaceful. And I'll often find for me, and I know that this is true for others as well, when I am under rested, let's say, I will think that I'm down or sad or depressed. And then I have to evaluate, this is again, why self-awareness is so important. Okay, well, where am I, first of all, in my own cycle? And then how much sleep did I get last night? Oh no, I'm not depressed. I'm just tired.
Right.
It really cleans up your thoughts, because otherwise I'd be going down this rabbit hole of, oh, I'm sad. What are all the things in life I have to be sad about or upset about? And instead I realized, because I'm so aware, that I'm just tired and life is still good.
I love the way you started that with the, sometimes you feel you're down or depressed and it's just, you're tired, because if you think about depression and exhilaration, right? One of them feels light and energetic, and one of them feels depressed, and another, it's high energy and low energy. So to be tired is to be in a low energy, just like a depression.
Yes.
And so you're actually reflecting a lower form of your energetic being in that space. And that, it's going to affect you in the way you think about your day. Your days are going to be harder. They're going to seem longer because you're just not rested, And I just did a video this morning that'll go out in a couple of days. And when this thing airs, it'll be a couple of weeks back. But there is no time or space.
Relative.
right. But it was all about the idea of what is the number one question you can ask yourself. And in that video, it says the number one question is, what is the loving thing I can do now? But I specifically said, sometimes the loving thing to do now is to say, I need to get some rest. I'm going to rest, And I think that to be your best at anything, you have to be rested. And that means if you're striving to upgrade your spiritual practice or live a more loving and spiritual life, you really have to rest to do that. You have to put your own oxygen mask on before helping others.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's a great topic to talk about, because most people won't give themselves a break. Right.
Because we've grown up, at least in this culture and many other Western cultures, that we have to be doing, doing. And so few of us allow ourselves to simply be. I had to really work at, I had to do being, right? I had to
I had to
try to
do
just
being.
be. I had to do being because I was doing all these other things. And
I love you to death, Tamara. You make me laugh every time we get together. I got to do being.
but I literally have to put on my
I get it
task
though.
list, just sit and be. I had to build it in until it became a habit, right?
Habit.
Until it, yes. So that's the thing. Anytime we're making a change for the better or the worse, but don't do that. We have to really practice it. And,
Right.
that's what I tell people all the time. Happiness is a practice. Spirituality is a practice. And even getting enough rest is a practice. And
Mm-hmm.
simply allowing yourself to step down the doing and simply sit and be. This is where we notice who we are and our deeper truths. If we're
Mm.
just busy, 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 busy doing, we never get quiet enough to really hear what is within us and what guidance is being offered to us all the time because we're not quiet enough to pay attention.
Right. There you go. We're not quiet enough to pay attention because the focus is on how tired you are.
Right.
You're not giving yourself the space to go, okay, I'm rested, so now I can look around. When
Yeah.
I had all my big out of body experiences and everything, they were happening either going into sleep or going into a deep meditation. By putting myself into a restful state is when I had my Kundalini rising. It's when I had my first out of body. It's when I had my first astral experience where I went out and met somebody, right? And then after that, when I started doing the controlled astral travel stuff, that was the same situation. I would just get to that space and then I would take conscious control of what I was doing. And but it was still that coming to that restful place. See, a lot of people, and this is one of the things that I struggle with on my channel. People want to wrap systems, processes, and doctrines and traditions and everything around something that is so simple. And to me, it literally comes down to that idea of release all the junk, right, and come to this space of rest. Because that's when I teach meditation, my methods of meditation, I don't do any breathing techniques. The only thing I do is there's one breath. You go, and you just let it go. And then you feel at the end of that exhale, and I mean full let go, all the muscles, everything. At the end of the exhale, there's a little tingle. There's a little feeling. Just put your focus on that and hold on to that. And then don't think about how you breathe after that. Don't think about anything else. Focus on that little tingle, that little feeling. And that little feeling is a glimmer of the feeling that I experienced in my regression when I was touched by an old buddy of mine.
Okay.
And you got to remember, it says right in the Bible, it calls it the breath of God, right? The connection to source is right there in your breath.
Yes.
And people often get into the whole, I have to count, I have to do this, I have to add this.
Well, because their minds are so busy, they're looking for a way to slow them down. And I think that that's a great first step.
Yep.
Because if you can just focus on the breathing or keep coming back to it, then eventually that does quiet the mind a bit. And so, yes, if you've been busy doing and your mind is like, go, 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 and you cannot quiet your thoughts, then the breath is the perfect place to start.
Right.
And
Yeah.
with practice,
the other thing I would
great
say
breath.
to somebody who said what you just said, I would tell them to change the belief about can't, right? Break the can't response.
Of course.
And it's interesting because no matter what your practice is, it's great. It's good because you're doing something,
right.
You're going towards something. And the people who get really good at meditation are not the ones who keep thinking about what they're thinking about. They're the ones who keep coming back and creating the habit of going to the space. And then the quiet times start to last longer.
Yes.
And that's where meditation is. So you just keep doing it until your quiet times last longer. And
Yeah. I love that.
it's
I call it like that pause between the thoughts.
right,
I mean, you
exactly.
can absolutely be holy. And this, I mean, it's fleeting sometimes. And sometimes it's like, oh, sometimes after a few moments, I'll have a thought about how long that space lasted. Like, ooh, that was a nice long pause between the thought where I was
Right, right,
noticing nothing.
right, right.
Mhm.
And that is, and it's such I don't know about you. When I meditate, I come out of meditation. First thing that happens is I come out, I'm just so calm, and everything is so peaceful around me at that moment,
You
right?
do 20 minutes twice a day, don't you?
I do 40 minutes twice a day.
40 minutes twice a day.
40
Dang.
minutes twice a day. I get up
Yeah.
in the morning, I get up early, and I go and I meditate. And sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, depending on what happens in that day. But it's usually around 40 minutes twice a day.
Mm.
Um, and people say, God, that's a long time. And doesn't feel long.
Mm-hmm.
It feels wonderful. And I will tell you, coming in and out of that space is where I get the best connected stuff.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I'm
Yes.
coming out of that space and I'm getting insights, and I think when I did my regression years ago, the regressionist was blown away at how fast I went under.
Mm.
And she says, wow, you went under fast. And I started to explain to her, well, at that point, it was the year 2000, and I had been meditating for almost 10 years at that point.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, I meditate twice a day. And she says, well, that must be why, because you're used to going into state, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And,
Again, it's practice. Yeah. Sometimes I only get in 5 minutes a day, and sometimes I
which is
get
great.
20 or 20. Right. That's my self-compassion is whatever I can get. Whatever I can squeeze in or fit in or take time for or make time for, that's enough.
Right.
And I'll tell other
Yeah.
people, like, even if it's just a minute,
Right.
that's enough. Like, whatever you can make space for is where you start.
And it doesn't have to be, what I do or what you do.
Right.
Meditation can be a long walk and shutting your brain off while you're
Mhm.
walking. There are walking
Yes.
meditations. There are labyrinth
Yes.
meditations. They're all, I remember training my subconscious mind by walking with a chant, with like a mantra. I put that
Mhm.
mantra in to the pace of my rhythm of walking, and the next month I saw the results of that mantra, right? But but even though I'm still physically walking, I did rest my brain.
Yes.
I rested my brain. I let my brain not have to think about the minutia of this or the struggles of that, or how what happens if you get thrown a loop in the middle of a day like this morning, and right. Um, things will phase you less when you're rested.
Absolutely.
When you're tired, it's like, what happened, right? Because your energy just wants to lash out at that point.
Yeah, when you're rested or you're practicing meditation, you do more easily just go with the flow. And I find that after a lot of years of paying attention and practicing all of this, that now more often than being grumpy when I'm tired, really, I don't have, like, I just don't have that, or I don't use what energy I do have for the grumps.
Right,
A
right.
great song I used to listen to when my kids were little. We are the grumps.
Yeah.
Anyway, it makes me laugh still all these years later. Um, because I've practiced enough of directing the energy in the way that I want. And so when I'm this fatigued and I'm like, oh man, I've been going for 2 weeks in a row, it's more like, man, I've been going for 2 weeks in a row. I'm ready for some rest. And I'm grateful that this work brings me such energy, and I deserve downtime.
Right.
And and not even like, I don't even feel like playing. I feel like laying.
Right, right.
Right. Tomorrow I'm going to lay on my bed and watch these speakers for this happiness summit. And that's my whole plan for the day.
Yeah,
That's not until
yeah.
I go pick up my kiddos and groceries and things. But
And
then when I do pick them up and I get back to the doing part of life, my being will be so fulfilled.
that is that your being. I often say
Mhm.
spirituality is a feeling and a being, not a knowing and a knowledge.
Mhm.
And you have to stay in that space of being and feeling. And
Yes.
if you feel tired and down, you're not in a good space of feeling and being.
Right.
And
Right.
you need to make sure that you're giving yourself the loving gesture of loving yourself enough to rest and loving yourself enough to
Absolutely. It's
sleep.
so vital.
It absolutely is. And um it's been a very interesting few weeks. We both have gone crazy.
Yeah.
Our channels are jumping up and subscribers very quickly. Um, I'm John of New is halfway to being monetized.
Nice.
Isn't that
Wow, that's
crazy?
fast.
Yeah, I have we have more subscribers on Spirit Cafe. We're in the so we're at 756 right now,
Mhm.
and John of New in 3 weeks is 535 right now.
Wow.
But
Yeah,
it's
you're
got
putting out a lot of content.
yeah, it's like I have 15,000 views. I have 2,000 watch hours, and you have to have 4,000. You have to
Okay.
have and you have to have 1,000 subscribers. So I'm
Wow.
halfway to 1,000, and I'm halfway to my watch hours.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
Spirit Cafe, for you people who really want to help us get this up there and going to that next level, Spirit Cafe is currently only at 900 watch hours.
Oh, we
So
need some more watch hours.
yeah, we need
So
some more watch hours. And
share us with
well,
your friends and subscribe and watch and
right,
watch them
right,
again, because you learn something new each time you watch the same thing. Like, if you go in with a beginner's mind, like, what am I going to learn today from this? Sure, I've heard this conversation before, but what am I going to learn today?
right.
I'm open to learning something new or hearing something new or having some new insight inspired by this conversation.
Right, right, and it's what that topic that we just talked about the watch hours, it doesn't really matter, but it's because the content is what is important. Um, but we when we do these programs, for me, and this is just to give a little tribute to my co-host here, um, when I come to do a Spirit Cafe, I smile all the way through it. I am so charged up just because I got a cool co-host and we get to talk about things that we love. So
So
that
good
is
to talk
also,
about this stuff.
yeah, yeah, and it's you're okay too. You know, yeah, you don't suck, so it's okay.
Thanks, John. You don't either.
Yay! We don't suck together. No, leave that alone.
Yes, better let that one rest. And maybe for once, I don't know, the last few weeks we've gone long because we've had such fun, interesting guests, and
And more to
and
come. More to come.
yes, so many more to come. I'm so excited. We have a Reiki master coming soon. We have another energy healer coming soon. Who else do we have coming
We have a
soon?
medium coming
A
soon.
medium coming
Yeah, and we
soon.
have a channel coming soon.
Right. And we have this fabulous dude I'm so excited to talk to, this Broadway guy. Let's call him that for now.
That's his new title, the Broadway Guy.
Broadway guy, right? I
Jazz
can't wait to talk to
hands.
the Broadway guy about his
Yeah, you have to do
spiritual
jazz
journey.
hands. If you're going to talk Broadway.
Jazz hands. All that jazz. We're gonna have
Yeah.
Joseph
Hey,
on.
oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Love
that's coming up in a
Chicago.
few weeks. So that'll be
Love
so much
Chicago.
fun. Ah, it's a good one.
All right,
Yeah,
so we've done a full half an hour, or there's going to be very little editing except for that part in the beginning that the audience will never see because I'm going to edit it out.
Except when we eventually do an episode of outtakes with all the
Oh, we
funny
should
stuff.
we should totally do a bloopers episode
That'd be
because that would be
fun.
it'd be really funny because on the podcast it'd be like ha 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 oh yeah oh yeah I can't you just did that
Mostly all the times in the beginning where we mess up or Sad part is that usually it's about you forgetting to hit record. So
right.
that's not even on camera. That's not even recorded. There's no record of all those funny times.
Okay, if we ever do a blooper thing, it'll have to be on just on YouTube, because the podcast would be ridiculously boring.
It would be. All right, all of you fabulous viewers and listeners who want to see some John and Tamara bloopers, you let us know. Keep commenting, keep telling us what you want to hear us talk about, and we love your conversations. So we both get in there and try to do our best to respond to you and converse with you, because ultimately it's about building community where we can have our spiritual relationships without any guilt, and knowing that whatever feels good and right for you is what's good and right for you. Forget about the programming and reprogram your life your way, man. You deserve it. We all deserve to have that relationship with source and self that is beautiful and loving. So thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you again next time.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.